So I get to introduce to you to my beautiful brother, Paddy Gibson, who is a socialist and has been involved in protest movements for 20 years plus, with a focus on campaigns for black rights, trade union rights, climate justice. He's worked very closely with families fighting for justice after losing a loved one in custody or having children removed by the so-called child protection. He is an editor of the Solidarity magazine and currently works as a historian at the Jumbunna Institute and UTS. And yeah, let's please give it up for the white boy, Paddy Gibson.
Thank you. Thanks heaps, Lizzie. I don't know if many people out there know Marcia Langton, but she famously referred to me as the white boy who knows everything, so I'll tell you that. She was screaming at me at the time, standing over the top of me, yelling at me, very unhappy about our campaign against the Northern Territory intervention, which she was supporting. But no, thank you. It is a real honour to be on this panel, and we've heard already so many wonderful words and got a fantastic welcome from Jenny. So it's a privilege to be sitting up here with you all. Lizzie did ask me to speak about, work campaigning in solidarity with Aboriginal people, and all I can really do is just share my perspective, is just to share, where I'm coming from, the position that I take within those struggles. I do a lot of protest organising, so, we all work together very closely when the massive Black Lives Matter rallies hit Australia. After the killing of George Floyd in the United States, there was an opportunity here. The Dungay family stood up. It was an incredible stand that they took, drawing the parallels between the killing of David and the killing of George Floyd, and people responded in mass numbers, and we had 40,000 people on the streets of Sydney in defiance of the police, saying that they were going to arrest people who turned up that day. They couldn't arrest 40,000. And, we got a decision out of the Supreme Court 10 minutes before we were set to start saying the rally was legal. We all know why they did that. It was because they were about to lose face, trying to criminalise a rally that they couldn't put down with police. And it had, I've learned so much, being part of those struggles and doing a lot of that organising, and just to pick up on the perspective, that I'm bringing into it, just to build on the insight that the sister shared with us just before about, the fact that fighting for rights, it can't, if you're going to do it in a way that's meaningful, it can't come out of a place of pity or charity. Like, that's useless to be saying, oh, poor things, Aboriginal people, they're treated so badly, what can we do, that do-gooder sort of liberal mentality, has actually been part of the problem in this country for a very long time. You've got to start from a perspective of deep respect for the incredible struggle that has come. I'm a socialist, I'm a revolutionary socialist. I want to get rid of this system. I want to overthrow global capitalism, right? There's only one group of people that waged a consistent armed struggle against the Australian state in this country, and that's Aboriginal people. For more than 100 years, didn't put down arms, right? Stood there, armed, fought back, killed, police and soldiers to defend their territory, right? So the starting point has got to be that you're dealing with a struggle that you need to respect and you need to learn from, and is actually the tip of a spear that's going to be crucial for the liberation of everyone on this continent and everyone in this region, right? So I think that for me is the starting point. There's so much to learn, and there's so much to get behind, and there's so much, to support. And I think it's about saying as well that this is a struggle that actually takes forward everyone's fight. Australian nationalism is a cancerous ideology, right? The whole idea of Australian nationalism was born out of white Australia, even though they've tacked on a bit of multiculturalism that they were forced to do because they wanted to exploit immigrant labour, so they had to bring people out here and then make room for them, sort of within Australian nationalism. At its heart, you don't have Australian nationalism without an Australian state. It exists to justify the existence of the state of Australia, which can only ever be a racist ideology because it's only ever going to be a racist project, right? The Australian state is actually founded on and relies upon the negation of the nations that were here and remain here and have never ceded their sovereignty here, right? So it requires saying, we are superior to you, right? That is actually at the foundation of the entire existence of the state of Australia. And it's an imperialist state that dominates a black region here, and it can only ever be an imperialist state that's dominating a black region here. So we actually have to smash Australian nationalism and smash the idea of being Australian, not say, how can we rescue it? You know, how can we actually get out there and rescue being Australian and so we can incorporate Aboriginality into Australian nationalism and put some dots, you know, on walls on the painting and acknowledge the elders while we continue to allow the mining companies to go in even when people have native title and have said no. They can go in and right over the top of them and dig the resources that they want to dig, you know, or dominate the region in the way that they do. And the black struggle in this country has disrupted and punctured Australian nationalism consistently in a way that no other struggle has. I mean, 1938, there was the, you know, pictures on the wall up there, but when Australia was celebrating 150 years, the sesquicentenary, Aboriginal people were marching, you know, and conferencing and saying this was our day of mourning, this was the day of disaster for us, this is our nakba, our catastrophe. And every year on the 26th of January, people go out there and fight. Now, I think Australian nationalism actually holds back most white people, right? Because, like, actually the police exist to protect a deeply unequal system where a tiny minority of people control an obscene amount of wealth, right? Like, I've stood on picket lines with trade unions, the police come in and smash us to try and break that picket line, you know? But who are the group of people on this continent who have consistently fought the police, consistently organised the demonstrations, gone out, it's black people. So that's why I think it's so important to line up where you can and build the solidarity where you can and build the power where you can behind the black struggle. Is not about an act of charity or an act of, how could we've got to, you know, improve the lives. It's about saying if they can beat back the police, then we can all go forward. You know, that we can all, there's white people killed in custody as well. There's never any demonstrations because people aren't organised, people aren't conscious, people aren't clear in the same way as we have a level of organisation in the Aboriginal community. I don't think the cops work for the interests of the majority in this society. I don't think they do. I'm for abolishing the police and abolishing the prison system. I don't think it works. It is very, very true that the level of persecution on the black community and other marginalised communities is off the scale compared to what most ordinary white people experience, 100%. That's why it's so important to go out and fight against those injustices and that racism. But I think going into that fight, it can't be, the police are really good except for these people. I think it's got to be, we've got to get rid of that police, because actually if we're going to do something, for example, about the climate crisis that's destroying the whole planet, when we go out and try and block roads to, you know, whatever, then they'll arrest you too. They'll arrest you too. They'll come for you too. I think that it's a system that's not working for the vast majority and is deeply exploitative and is killing the planet. And getting behind the black struggle and fighting for the black struggle is actually about taking yourself forward too, not just an act of like, well, it's happening bad to them, so we'll do something to help them. I think it's really important people get organised in their own workplaces, in their own communities around the issues or rights that are in front of them, because when the moments come, you can bring solidarity and bring power. You know, like there's some nurses union people in the crowd here, I know. You know, those nurses' strikes are fantastic out at Westmead Hospital. My brother was joining them on the picket lines and that. And then those nurses, actually a lot of them, because they're well organised in that, they took a delegation just recently up to the Pilliga in solidarity with Gomeroi people against what's happening with the gas mining. Like if you're organised, you can bring solidarity and power in a lot better way than if you're just an individual saying, I'm going to go along and say I'm here, you know, to help. Like get organised and bring power was the last point I was going to make.
Thank you.
The brother boy is defending a place called the lungs of the Kamilaroi, the Pilliga Scrub, and it is one of the most important places in this country. And I can tell you, I've seen stuff in there you wouldn't believe.
Well, thank you very much, my brother, Paddy Gibson. Give it up for Paddy Gibson, everybody, please. Thank you.